All right, hey everyone. I'm making this recording midweek of March 21st in order to kind of provide a more detailed video regarding our next learning. And I'm going to put a lot in writing, and then I'm going to put this page that I'm working on right now in Moodle. So you can watch this video and you can also see this completed document in Moodle. You don't have to do notes on this. If you would like to do notes, though, just do it on a piece of paper of your own or a notebook of your own, putting things in your own words. But I'm going to give you kind of everything and teach it right up front, not through the note-taking itself, but just through the teaching, and then you decide if you want the note-taking or not. But here's kind of the question I posed the last few days. So previously, we talked about information processing theory, IPT, and we concluded that learning is directly the result of information being registered, thought about, used, and remembered, right? And that learning is therefore neural. Neural networks are going through our brains, and those neural networks are causing us to be able to think through things more rapidly and causing us to have memory. And we use those memory channels to think. Okay, that's what information processing theory is all about. But then on Moodle even, I asked this very interesting question. Does a person's behavior, right, the way they act, directly change based on knowledge? In other words, does knowledge equal change? It's kind of a big question, you guys. It's a really big question. Does knowledge equal change each and every time? And I would say no, it does not. People can know something really well, they can know a lot about something, and yet not actually change their behavior. So the thing that I would submit is that how we act and what we know are slightly related, but not immediately connected in a causal manner. One does not cause the other. Knowledge does not cause change. What you know does not make you act a certain way. So here's an example of this. I live really close to a hospital, and on my way to work every single day, I drive right by this hospital, and I know some of these nurses. Some of these nurses are friends that work at the hospital. But the reality is, as I'm driving by the nurses, many of them are smoking, right? They know more about the effects, the terrible negative effects of smoking on the lungs and how it affects a person's body. And they may even have literally worked with people or watched people die who have had smoking ruin their life, and yet they smoke anyway. Another example, I have a friend who is a banker, and he works with money each and every day. But he is a terrible user of money. He's terrible with savings. He is horrible at saving. He is horrible at knowing what to purchase. His money and his budget are out of control, yet he's a banker, and he does it for a living. He knows more about money than anyone, but it doesn't mean he lives his life in a way that shows that knowledge. Okay? So these are two examples. How we act and what we know are certainly slightly related, but one does not cause the other. Why is this? This was a question. This question was the primary question that a guy named Albert Bandura was interested in looking at. Albert Bandura he's lived an incredibly long life. He was born in 1925 and died in 2021 at the age of 95. And he did research literally throughout most of his life, you guys. So one of his very first studies was in 1955. He did the Bobo the Clown experiment. And through this experiment, he learned that how people act is directly related to how they see others act, particularly adults or mentors or role models, right? I should actually add a big thing here: parents. People act typically in the way that they see trusted others act. Our behavior, in other words, behavior does not equal, knowledge, knowing about something does not equal behavior. Oh my goodness, look at that spelling, you guys. Beautiful spelling. Instead, role models, social observations, watching others does equal behavior. Not each and every time, right? None of these are rules. None of these are like every single time you watch someone hit another person, you will hit a person. But in general, these are some guidelines from Bandura. Oops. And so this led to a very, very interesting thing. Information processing theory explains how we learn, but it doesn't explain what we do with what we learn. And so in order to fill this gap, Albert Bandura coined a new theory, Bandura's theory, called the Triadic Reciprocal Causation Model. Let me write that down for you so you can see it. It's called the Triadic Reciprocal Causation Model. Okay, that seems like an absolute mouthful, but here, the triadic means this. Triadic means, oops, I'm still bolded. Triadic simply means three. Okay, there's three. Reciprocal means related. Three related causation reasons. Three related reasons for behavior, for how we act. Okay, so that's literally the triadic reciprocal causation model is literally a fancy way of saying three related reasons for how we act. So that's how I want you to think of the triadic reciprocal causation model. Three related reasons for how we act. And to keep this really simple, we're just going to call it the triadic model. That's what a lot of people call it, okay? So we'll call this the triadic model. Let's go through the three related reasons that Bandura came up with. And I'm going to keep this video relatively short and simple. I don't think we need to necessarily go super, super deep into this. So let me just tell you the three parts of the triadic model. And that's probably all we will do in this video. First is this: the way we act is a function of personal characteristics, right? Knowledge, learning is a big part of how we learn and how we act is personality theory, right? So what are your goals? What makes you stressed? What gives you anxiety? What makes you excited? What makes you joyful? These are different for every person, but these personal characteristics are a big part of how we determine how we act. How am I going to get, I think I got a little typo going on here. Go that, there we go. Goals, stress, anxiety, the things that make us tick. Another part of it is how aware we are of ourselves. We know, how aware are we that we are doing something? How aware we are of ourselves, okay? How aware we are when it comes to the decisions we make or the way we learn, okay? So being aware of the decisions we make, decision-making awareness, is simply self-control. How self-controlled are we? I'm going to actually put this on the next page real quick, just so it's all in one nice page. The awareness of learning awareness, is what's called metacognition. Okay? So the awareness in how we make decisions is self-control. The awareness of how we learn is called metacognition. So we have personal characteristics, that includes goals, that includes self-control, that includes metacognition, but it also includes one last really important thing. How confident we believe we can learn and use information. That affects our behavior. If you learn something and you aren't confident that it matters or that you could use it, it doesn't actually lead to any behavioral change. Okay, so this is called self-efficacy. Okay, and it's a really important thing. Self-efficacy. Let me just talk about this term. This term refers to one's willingness and belief in themselves to use knowledge and skills to accomplish new tasks. Okay? It's not actually even related to just doing what you've always done. It's related to the ability to change, the ability to learn something new, the ability to turn over a new leaf. And the idea of self-efficacy is absolutely crucial, according to Bandura. And I would actually echo this. I think self-efficacy is absolutely essential. So let me give you an example of self-efficacy. I'm going to give you two kids. I'm going to make their names up. Let's say we have Johnny and we have Susie. Those are kind of my go-to names, Johnny and Susie. So Johnny, let's just say Johnny has low self-efficacy. Let's say Susie has high self-efficacy. I just realized I have a Susie in this class, so hi Susan. And I did not pick this name to pick on you by any means, but cheers. Okay, so Johnny, low self-efficacy, Susie, high self-efficacy. Let's say that they both learn. Both Johnny and Susie learn a new thing in school. Okay? Let's just say they're learning, it's in math class, and it's a very, it's a quadratic equation. I'm making all this up. And the teacher says this quadratic equation is useful for algebra, and it's very important, and it is used in business. If you ever want to be an engineer or a business person, you need to know this. Okay, so that's our scenario. Well, Johnny has low self-efficacy. That means Johnny cannot see himself ever being an engineer. We're going to go backwards, or a business person. He doesn't see himself. He doesn't believe that he could actually pass algebra or maybe even graduate high school. That's a low self-efficacy. And because of this low self-efficacy, Johnny will intentionally pay less attention and interest in learning about the quadratic equation. It's called self-efficacy. This often leads to a cycle. He doesn't believe he can, so he doesn't. He doesn't believe he can, so he doesn't. It's kind of a sad idea, but it's all too common in school. Let's take Susie. Conversely, Susie has high self-efficacy, and she doesn't know what she wants to do, but she believes that she could one day be an engineer or a doctor or a business person. Okay? Because of this, she is very excited and interested in learning the quadratic equation. Okay? And she, in fact, is taking notes. She's doing all these extra skills and uses note-taking and all of her metacognitive strategies, because she knows how she learns. She's going to be paying attention to her metacognition. She's going to go, yeah, in order to learn this is what I need to do. Note-taking, all of her metacognition. She really wants to remember it. Okay? That also leads to a cycle. She believes that she can, so she does. This is a huge, huge thing. Whether you believe you can or cannot, you are right. That's a quote I've heard about self-efficacy before. Whether you believe you can or cannot, you are right. Your belief in yourself, your self-efficacy, is a massive determiner in how you act when it comes to learning, and if you learn or not, and if you use that learning. Self-efficacy is huge. So this is personal characteristics. This is the very first step in this triadic model. The two others are a little bit shorter. In addition to personal characteristics, we have behavioral characteristics. Typos. Okay. This would be typically your patterns, right? Your behavioral patterns, so to speak. It would include things like how often you observe yourself and evaluate yourself and make changes to your behavior. How often are you willing to address your own behavior? It also is a perception. How you view yourself and your choices. Do you view choices as something in your control? Or do you view choices as something you are only partially in control of? That is a huge question. These behavioral characteristic patterns of how you view yourself and evaluate yourself, and you're making changes, and how you view the level of control you have in the choices, is massive. People who believe that their choices are entirely their own typically learn more quickly and apply that learning more readily. If a person believes that life just happens and choices are at least in part outside of your control, that person learns much less quickly and much less practically. How you view your role in making choices in the world determines how you learn. So important. So that's behavioral characteristics. We got personal characteristics. Oopsies, what did I just do? Control B. We have behavioral characteristics, and then the last part of the triadic model, the third of three, is environmental factors. Okay, environmental factors. We're not talking about the environment here in terms of nature. We're talking about the environment here in terms of learning and rewards and punishments. Okay, so there's learning, and then there's rewards / punishments or consequences. But there's two parts of this. Let's talk about learning first. One incredibly important environmental factor is a person's learning and their behavior sometimes is a little bit limited or perhaps slightly different than others due to learning environments and resources that are available. Okay, let me give you some examples. We could have great teachers or bad teachers in school. Great teachers or bad teachers. You could have a study group or no study group. You could have math help and tutoring or not. You could have a writing coach or not. You could have support teams, support staff like counselors, mentors, coaches, etc., or not. Some of these environmental factors are outside of your control. That's different. The choices you make, you are in control in. The environment you are in, sometimes not. So a person's behavior, remember this is triadic reciprocal, they're all related to. A person's behavior and learning is impacted by the quality and amount of learning resources that they are around and have access to. We really want education to be a space of equity, right? We talk about that quite a lot, but we know it's not perfect. What's really important, though, it is crucial that a lack of resources does not cause a person to believe that they cannot learn. In other words, a lack of resources or support does not equal less self-efficacy. Self-efficacy still can be there. The behaviors that I am in control can still be there, even if the resources are not. Rewards and punishments, the next thing. Some people grow up in environments that are reward heavy. Rewards would include not just grades, not just good grades, but positive affirmation, kindness, feeling included, a sense of belonging, right? Sometimes when you do a really good job on something, you don't actually care about your grade, but you crave that sense of feeling like you did well. Affirmation, I think, is a key word here. Okay, we need to know we did a good job. That's a huge reward. Or it could be candy, for little kids, or it could be recess, whatever. Right? Punishments, in a learning sense, punishments are a piece of the puzzle, and it includes how a person is punished and why. There's so much out there. If a person is punished for the right reasons in the right way, learning can happen. If a person is punished for the wrong reasons or for no reason at all, and it's done in the wrong way, learning will never happen. Learning will never happen. So people must feel, when it comes to these rewards and punishments, a person must feel that the reward or punishment for learning and behavior matches reality. Being over rewarded is not great. Being over punished is terrible. Being under rewarded is a bummer. Being under punished is tricky. Especially if you're a teacher. If you're a teacher, these are the types of things that just haunt your thoughts. Am I doing my rewards and my punishments right to lead to learning or not? Oops. So these are our lists. These are the triadic reciprocal causation model of learning. We have personal characteristics, we have behavioral patterns and characteristics, and then environmental factors. We're going to take more and more of a dive into this information over the next few weeks, but I hope this video is helpful. And please let me know if you have any questions. We'll get into it soon, y'all. Cheers.